and November 30th, the year 2023, commencing at 9:30 a.m. for the purposes of considering priority business ahead of the December recess. Okay, it's the mood of the House that I put the question. Honorable members, I now put the question that pursuant to the provisions of Order 33C, this House resolves to hold morning sittings on Thursdays of November 16th, November 23rd, and 30th of the year 2023. Commencing at 9:30 a.m. for the purposes of considering priority business ahead of the December recess. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it.
Order number 9, the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, National Assembly Bill number 67 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to make various amendments to statute law. Order number 10, the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 68 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to make various amendments to statute law and for connected purposes. Order number 11, motion, debate on the President's Address, Day 3.
Honorable Junet, what is out of order? Give Honorable Junet the mic.
No, Madam Speaker, I thought still the Deputy Speaker is on the chair, but now that she has left. But Madam Speaker, what I wanted to raise is that we're seeking your indulgence and guidance on a matter, on a notice of motion that has been moved by Honorable Ntongoyo on the deployment of police officers to Haiti. Madam Speaker, I'm not anticipating debate, but I want to raise a procedural matter and a constitutional matter, that this matter, before the motion is brought to the House, I wanted to request the Speaker to give directive that the matter be subjected to public participation as required by the Constitution. This is a very heavy matter. This is a deployment of Kenyans to another part of the country. This is an issue.
Order, Honorable Junet. Order, Honorable Junet. First of all, the chair is not vacant. The chair is properly occupied, and you don't need to see the Deputy Speaker on the seat. Secondly, this matter you're being preempted. We're actually preempting debates. That was a motion, a notice of a motion. We will have enough time to prosecute that matter as a House. Honorable Tongoyo, are you speaking to the same, or have I guided the way you'd have wanted to say?
Just to really support what we have said, Madam Speaker, I think the very senior member, Junet, is preempting. We will have the entire tomorrow. He can bring his issues, but I want to confirm to Kenyans and to this House that we really follow the due process of law to the letter. We did the publication, of course, we had the public participation done. Nevertheless, you'll have the opportunity to raise any concern.
I've already guided Honorable Tongo, that is sufficient.
Yeah, thank you, Madam.
We'll continue with the debate and order number 11. On this motion, the member for Jororok, you had a balance of 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Is that true? 4 minutes. As I had been guided, every member is speaking for 5 minutes, apart from 3 chairs. The member for National Intelligence, Defense and Foreign Relations, the chair for JLAC, and the chair for National Security. Every other member, 5 minutes. Member for Jororok, Honorable Mushira, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, like I said in the morning, I want to laud the President for being forthright and candid to Kenyans on the real state of the nation as he was giving his speech. Madam Speaker, the President appreciated that it is true the cost of living is high, and that it is true he also took over a country that is ridden with debts. But the most important thing, Madam Speaker, is that the President gave an assurance that he is working towards fixing this mess that he inherited from the previous regimes. On the matter to do with debts, the President indicated that he is working towards rationalization of the budget and to reduce the budget shortfalls, and that way, we as a country, we reduce external borrowing. And number two, Madam Speaker, the President indicated that he is working towards payment of the expensive and exploitative Eurobond that is due next year, and he indicated that he intends to pay that debt ahead of time. And that way, Madam Speaker, this will reduce the pressure that the country is experiencing in terms of servicing the debts that fall due. On the matters of cost of living, the President indicated that the program of subsidy of fertilizer that reduced the cost of fertilizer from 6,500 to currently 2,500 by subsidizing production rather than consumption is working, and it's a matter of time that the price of food will continue reducing. We've seen the reduction of food prices, and I know with time the food prices will continue reducing. Madam Speaker, I was impressed to listen to the President share success stories about the Financial Inclusion Fund, also known as Hustler Fund. Madam Speaker, this Hustler Fund is a game changer to the hustlers of this country. Madam Speaker, we as leaders need to encourage our voters and Kenyan citizens to apply for this fund, because out there, people have enterprising minds and brains. They have good ideas. What they lack is capital to implement those ideas. With the Hustler Fund, that you don't need to know anyone to get and to apply, you will be able to get this fund and apply your ideas and start that small business. Madam Speaker, we also need to encourage Kenyan citizens that for you to get more loans from this Hustler Fund, you need to borrow and repay. We know that it is true. There are Kenyans who have increased their limit, as the President stated, by borrowing and pay and borrowing and pay. But we also know that there are also Kenyans who have not been able to pay, and it is important to encourage them to keep on applying and paying for this fund. Madam Speaker, I would also encourage the relevant State Department to continue sharing these success stories to Kenyans so that Kenyans can know that it is true. You can be able to rise from the bottom up through business. Madam Speaker, and finally, on the matters of education, I want to laud the President, because for the last financial year, there were recruitment of over 55,000 teachers. And this is laudable because of the implementation of the JSS and ensuring the standard of education are enhanced in this country. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I support.
Thank you. Next chance to go to the Honourable Member for Kibwezi West, Honourable Ekomas Mutuse.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I now confirm that coming early and logging in early pays. I stand to contribute to the State of Nation address delivered by His Excellency the President before the joint sitting of Parliament on the 9th of November 2023. And Madam Speaker, before I go to what I want to say, first of all is to say that the President's speech was concise, it was brief, not a lot of verbosity, not ambiguous, very specific and eloquently delivered. It was also delivered within a good time, because many, many times you would realize that people would deliver a speech until the people listening to the speech get very bored. And so we want to applaud the president for having a speech that was specific, a speech that was timeous, and that was also very eloquently delivered. Having discussed the form and the manner of delivery, Madam Speaker, being the member for Kibwezi and also being the vice chair of JLAC, I would want to speak to issues that the president spoke about, especially concerning the governance, justice, law, and order sector. You would realize that our constitution, Madam Speaker, is very right.
Honorable Basil, hold on, Honorable Mutuse. What is out of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think I'm standing on point of order 85. My brother Mutuse is misleading the House. He says the speech was short and precise, but it was too long. 100 points, more than 1 hour. So please, it was
Honorable
not too short.
Basil, you are totally out of order. Read your standing orders. The standing order number 85 is on anticipation of debate, totally out of order. Continue, Honorable Mutuse.
Thank you very much. The Honorable, you know, it is very important for the Honorable Basil to also get an opportunity to speak in this House. We have come a long way with him, the member for Yata. And you know, short is in context. Is in context because we are also comparing with what has been done in the past. We know this House has been engaged to speeches that would run for more than 3 hours. And so, like I had said, Madam Speaker, I want to contribute specifically to the issues that the President spoke about regarding the justice, law, and order sector. And fundamentally, Madam Speaker, as I had said, our Constitution, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, is very rights and freedoms-centric. And that's why the chapter on fundamental rights is among the most elaborate in our Constitution. And I am happy that the President was able to touch on issues that touch on fundamental rights, including political, civil, and economic and social rights as demanded in our Constitution. Madam Speaker, one of the most important things that the President spoke about is the appointment of the 6 judges of the Court of Appeal that had been delayed by the former President. Under our Constitution, the President's role in the appointment of judges is largely ceremonial, and therefore a President cannot purport to not appoint judges on the basis of imaginary intelligence reports, on the basis of imaginary integrity issues that are not put forth to the country. Madam Speaker, we know also that in terms of reviving the economy, you require a very efficient judiciary. Investors will not go to a country that cannot be able, the judicial system is not working. A country where commercial disputes cannot be resolved within time. And therefore, the number of judges, in terms of the concept of judicial efficiency, the number of judges and the number of judicial officers is very key. And that's why we in the Justice, and we applaud this House as JLAC, when the President made the proclamation about adding the budget of the judiciary by another 3 billion, this House was able to do it. And through that budget, I can confirm that more judicial officers have been hired. As we speak today, more judges are being hired. You would recall that recently we passed the Miscellaneous Law Amendment that amended the Judicature Act, Section 7 of it, to increase the number of judges of the Court of Appeal from 30 to 70, so that justice can be dispensed expeditiously. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we want to, the country in our own thinking is on the right trajectory, and we want to request that those who get funding from this House, including the Judicial Service Commission and the judiciary, expend those resources in a manner that is prudent. Kenyans are concerned that the Judicial Service Commission appears to be living in largesse, that reports all over of members of the Judicial Service Commission touring countries abroad, living in luxuriously, are not very pleasing. And therefore, we want, even as we give monies to other arms of government within the justice and law and order sector, that such.
Your time is up. Honorable Junet.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand to contribute to this motion, to this debate on the presidential address. Madam Speaker, first I want to bring to the attention of the House that it's a requirement of the Constitution that the President once in a year reports to this Parliament on the achievement of certain parameters that are stipulated in the Constitution. And Madam Speaker, that provision was made in the Constitution so that this House can hold the President accountable. We are not here to have a chorus of thanking the president, appreciating what he said. That's none of our business as a house. We want to know as a house from his speech whether the last 1 year he has achieved those issues that he is supposed to report back to this house, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when I listened very keenly to the president on that day, because I was present in the house, I almost thought that the president is relaunching his UDA manifesto again for the second time, Madam Speaker. Because the whole speech was full of promises, promise after promise after promise after promise. Madam Speaker, these promises must come to an end, and Kenyans must be told what the government of the day has achieved for the last 1 year, Madam Speaker. 1 year is quite a long period of time, Madam Speaker. A lady gets a child in 1 year, Madam Speaker, after getting married. A whole human being is produced in 1 year, Madam Speaker, through marriage, Madam Speaker. So if you can produce a whole human being living in 1 year, but in 9 months actually, in less than a year, what is this that you cannot achieve in 1 year, Madam Speaker? So, Madam Speaker, let us be honest to Kenyans. Let us not address Kenyans as though some of them are living on earth and others are living in the moon, Madam Speaker. I heard people saying that we have stabilized the economy. I don't understand what stabilization means. When people are suffering, the cost of living is high, the cost of food is high, what have you stabilized? Unless you have stabilized things in a manner that we Kenyans cannot see. You are struggling with debt payment, you are struggling with revenues, you are struggling with all kinds of things, and then you have the audacity to tell Kenyans that we have stabilized the economy. A stabilized economy is an economy that has less debt and higher revenues, where you don't need to borrow to pay a debt. We are living in an economy where today, if we don't borrow, we will not be able to pay our debts, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, some of the things that I listened to in that speech, for example, is the issue of the Hustler Fund. Somebody borrowed 740,000, and now he's a rich man. He has bought a tuk-tuk. Madam Speaker, I don't know if we are living in the same country or we are living in different parts of the world, Madam Speaker. If you have a 740,000 shillings, that is enough to buy a tuk-tuk. But if people are saying that, it's like telling me today that I will get 1 million shillings.
Honorable Speaker, you know, the Honorable Junaid has been born in affluence. He's lived as a rich kid. So he does not know how much 700,000 can transform a person's life. He does not know that the price of unga today has moved from 250, which he supported during President Uhuru's speech in this very house,
Order.
that it was 250,
Honorable
now
Owen.
it's at 135.
Order, Honorable Owen Bayer. Order, Honorable Owen Bayer. That is a point of debate. You will have your chance to actually debate. Honorable Junet.
Madam Speaker, thank you for protecting me. You know, if the president and his government are relying on advice from Honorable Bayer, then I can tell you things will get worse going forward. Because I should expect as a leader to tell the president that on this one we are... Madam Speaker, in the whole speech of the president, I did not hear a word that was addressing the cost of living, Madam Speaker. And what is killing Kenyans is the cost of living. That is what this government promised to lower. They never promised to tell us that they are going to buy tuk-tuk for people, they are going to buy this for this. No, it's about ugali, it's about their stomachs, it is about their lives, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to urge the government that in the next presidential address, which will be 2 years, a year from now, and it will be 2 years of this government, Madam Speaker, I hope and pray that there will be something...
Your time is up. The next chance will go to... The next chance, I will not add. It is 5 minutes. I will not add. The next chance will go to the member for Westlands, Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you to give me a chance also to contribute to this presidential speech. Madam Speaker, when the president arrived here and when he stood up to speak, I thought he had forgotten his speech because he looked worried and spoke without reading. But later I realized that maybe he had memorized his speech
he gave out, I believe, what looked like a self-examination of his conscience and a report giving to the country. Madam Speaker, only those who are sitting in government, I think they believe things are okay. But from the body language of the president, he is a worried man. Things are not working, and he just stopped informing the country that they are in trouble, that we are in trouble. And we want to believe that he has good intentions for the country, and that within the next 12 months, he'll move with speed to put the country back on the road. Some of these people, the people sitting with him in government, Madam Speaker, they are not helping much. On Monday, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, when the day they declared a national holiday for planting trees, we saw in the media how wastage in a government that is already struggling with cash constraints, the CSS and senior government officials flying from one corner of the country to another to go and plant trees. This job could have been done very well by the DCCs, the chiefs, and including the local leadership. I believe that is part of controlling government expenditure. And when we are struggling with no cash, Madam Speaker, I think the president needs good people around him to help him, Madam Speaker, to streamline how the government can recover and bring back the economy back on the road. But the way we are going, I see that there is no seriousness in the government, and we hope that when the bipartisan report is come here, we will see something different coming out so that the government can start functioning the way Kenyans expected. I'm sure the Kenya Kwanza government made so much promises to Kenyans. The Kenyans have got very high expectation, and from what they are seeing, they are frustrated. People of Kenya are so frustrated, and they're still waiting to see the bottoms-up promise, the hustlers rising from down there and being placed somewhere. And even the hustler fund, I'm still waiting to see the effect, because the president said so much has been done. I'm still even to hear from anybody from my constituents telling me what hustler fund has done in his life or impacted on him. All these are things that we are looking forward to. And I'm very sure that with his determination, he's a man who has got a lot of energy, and I'm very sure President Ruto, if he gets right men and women in his government, Madam Speaker, he will deliver to Kenyans. But the way it is now, I doubt it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The next chance will go to the member for Keio South, Honorable Gideon Kimaio. Not in the House. The next one will go to the Honorable Member for Isiolo South, Honorable Bidu Tubi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to air my views on the same. One thing, Madam Speaker, the speech by the President had good things and forgotten some issues. Some good things, including the education. When we talk about education, that is a tick, because education seems to be training. Whatever is supposed to be the requirements for teachers training has been lowered so that a lot of people are going into the schools. That is a tick, I can say. Several others about economy and all these things. It looked as if the whole thing was biased towards agriculture. We have what is called livestock and livelihood. Nothing touched on the livestock and livelihood, which is a mainstay of a lot of people in the north. That thing never touched, the president did not touch or bother to touch. Then the issue of floods. Floods has caused a lot of problems in the country. Right now in my constituency, 4 centers have been closed along the river Wasonyiro, and nothing seems to be going on. I mean, when we talk of closing the centers, an existing center has been closed. Along Wasonyiro, there is Gafarsa, there is Resaboru, Sericho, all these things, all Badana and all these areas are being closed because of flood waters. Nothing has been said about this. Then we talk about bottom-up economy. We are people who are doing artificial mining in COM. Provincial administration closed that camp, at least where people, hustlers, are trying to get daily living. And why it is closed in the name of insecurity, that one, we don't know. What do we do? The president is saying, let's try to get hustle and get money, put food on the table. But when it comes to provincial administration coming in the name of insecurity, security is supposed to be on the government to maintain security of individuals and their property. You cannot close where people are earning money simply because of security, alleged insecurity, which is supposed to be the job of the government and the police. So, Madam Speaker, there seems to be a lot of contradictions in the whole thing. Next time, I think all these things, it must be the speech of the nation from the president must cover everywhere equitably. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. The next chance will go to the member for Igembe Central, Honorable Daniel Carrido.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I also want to add my voice on the presidential address to the nation. Madam Speaker, generally the address was well balanced, and considering the fact that as a leader, one has to give hope to his people, and the president did exactly that, and not only giving hope, he really stressed on issues and the importance of the nation and the things that he has done and that the government has covered for the last 1 year. And most of them are the things that you can see. For example, the employment of teachers and the revival for the economy. Madam Speaker, the president talked a lot on the revival of our economy. We know that, and he also alluded to the fact that our economy is not doing the best at the moment. Considering the fact that the world over has some crisis, especially on matters fuel. And Madam Speaker, the only thing that I felt was not touched was on how to raise revenue, especially to generate revenue from foreign countries. And Madam Speaker, there's no way we can increase our income unless if we sell and we vigorously campaign to have our local products exported to earn the necessary dollars. And Madam Speaker, the president, I think, he had an oversight, especially on matters, local products, especially he mentioned on coffee, tea, and he also mentioned the fish. But he forgot to mention that we have a product in Meru that can bring in billions of dollars every year to this country. The product known as Mira, which has been going to Europe, which has been going also to some countries in Asia, but we have some problems of late, and it could be raising a lot of money. If it goes to Europe as it used to go, that's the time when the Kenya highways used to make a lot of profit through the Mira flights. And Madam Speaker, if we have markets in a country like Djibouti, West Africa, and even South Africa, the dollar issue could have been eased through that product. Madam Speaker, on the issue of the teachers, we are grateful that really the teachers' employment has made the education sector bearable, and even the performance will be improving because the teacher-student ratio will be improved. Madam Speaker, on the part of infrastructure, especially paying the contractors to continue clearing the already roads that have been on work, is really also going to improve our economy, and we alone that, and we support the President, and for that work well done. Madam Speaker, the President also talked very much about the ASULA Fund. We have seen it working very well, even in rural areas, whereby the local and simple farm traders, business people have been borrowing and paying, and it has really improved their operation base, and they are adding a shilling to the economy, which is seriously needed. Madam Speaker, I think the whole statement was well on balance, and I congratulate the President, and I think he is doing well, and this government is doing well as far as his want is seen. In terms of production, we have seen the fertilizer, which has been subsidized. The farms and the farm produce, especially the maize and even other farm produce, have improved seriously as per the report that we have collected. And I believe as time goes by, very soon we will be able to fend for ourselves. And if our country is in a capacity to fend for itself, it will eventually grow economically, because whatever the reserves that would have been used to import food will be used to import other essential and very necessary merchandise that we need in this country. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
Thank you. Before the next speaker, allow me to recognize in the public gallery students from Nairobi Institute of Business Studies, NIBS Technical College in Starehe constituency, Nairobi County. On behalf of the House, we welcome you to observe the proceedings of the House. The next chance will go to the member of Alego Usonga, Honorable Samuel Atandi.
He's out of the House. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to make my submission on the Presidential State of the Nation address. Madam Speaker, I was not present in the House when the President was here, but like many other Kenyans, I was able to listen or heard the content of his speech. And I concluded that the President had nothing substantial to tell the nation. In his speech, Madam Speaker, the President averred that withdrawal of subsidies on petroleum and fuel products had led to the stability of the economy. Madam Speaker, this is dishonesty of the highest order. Because, Madam Speaker, as you know, millions of Kenyans sleep hungry in their houses without food because the economy has been battered by wrong policies and corruption. Madam Speaker, I want to say that the President had really nothing serious to tell the nation. And we want to urge the President, like my colleague Honorable Junet has said, that in the next speech, we would like to see a President who is serious, not the one who was here. The one who was here basically was engaged in gerrymandering and hypocrisy and all manner of stuff that I cannot describe.
Point of order. Point of order.
Honorable Karoli, what is out of order?
Madam Speaker, is it in order for Honorable Atandi to complain about the high fuel prices when he himself in this House, together with Honorable Junet, voted for the introduction of the first 8% VAT on the fuel? Thank you.
I think I will ignore him because that time he was not in this House. But Madam Speaker, to conclude, because I don't want to make a long speech, I want to
conclude and be factual.
I want to confess, Madam Speaker, that if the President was here and he spoke about the stability of the economy, then, Madam Speaker, the President was really dishonest. Because, as Madam Speaker, you know, just like I know, that this is the worst leadership that this country has ever seen. Worse than the presidency of Moi. Worse than the presidency of Jomo Kenyatta. And so if you're a president who's presiding over an economy such as what we have, then when you come to Parliament to give your State of the Nation address, then the least we expect from you as the president is to be honest with your fellow citizens. And like many other Kenyans, Madam Speaker, we believe that the president is a liar. that he will never see the truth, and he should say that he should lie to Kenyans on the street, not in the National Assembly. Madam Speaker.
What is out of order, Honorable Owen?
Honorable Speaker, I thought the Honorable Atandi actually said he was here before the MP for Suba, and he knows that it is very unparliamentary to use the word that he has used, liar. It's an unparliamentary word. It should not be used. Use other adjectives. If you have not gone to school properly, I could educate you. Use words like, he was far from the truth. Words like, he didn't convince us. He misled. But to use, if I could educate you on the words to use.
Honorable Owen, don't be tempted to debate. Don't be tempted to
But not the word liar. It's unparliamentary.
Don't be tempted to
kindly,
debate.
Honorable Speaker, he should withdraw. He cannot use that word for the form of the president. He cannot. He should withdraw.
Don't be tempted to debate.
Please, Honorable Atandi, be gracious enough. Gracious is an English word to withdraw. The word liar.
Madam Speaker, I withdraw the word liar and replace with dishonest.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, as I conclude, Madam Speaker, Kenyans are watching this House. And Kenyans expect this House to be their savior. And so, Madam Speaker, it is important for this House to reject the President's speech, because the speech does not make sense.
Honorable Atandi, I was just confirming, did you say the President is a liar?
I did, and I withdrew.
Okay. You have withdrawn for the record?
Yes, I withdrew and replaced it with dishonest.
Continue.
Yes. Madam Speaker, as I wind up, I want to say that, Madam Speaker, if these members of this House do not change their strategy of legislation and approach to national issues, then most of members of this House will not come back, especially members of the government side, because you seem to support things that you should not support, including a dishonest speech made by a president who is bringing down the economy, a president who is defeated, who has failed to even do simple things.
Thank you, Honorable Atandi. Next one will go to the member for Nandi, Honorable Cynthia Muge.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to make comments regarding the presidential address, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I first want to appreciate the President for ensuring that he saw to it that his duty, constitutional duty, to address this House, Honorable Speaker, on matters of the state of the nation, that he fulfilled, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that as I make a comment on this particular issue, Honorable Speaker, which majorly, Honorable Speaker, is speaking to the economy of this country, I want to say that I lack what many people call a lived experience, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in 2002, when we were talking about the GDP of this country at 0.6%, Honorable Speaker, I was a class 1 kid. And Honorable Speaker, in 2013, when we are talking about the GDP of this country, again, Honorable Speaker, when it was doing better after the era of Kibaki, I was a very timid first-year student in the university, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in 2017, when I had just opened my eyes and I was a member of the County Assembly, Honorable Speaker, the GDP of this nation, Honorable Speaker, was 4.9%. And Honorable Speaker, in 2022, when we were campaigning, the GDP of this country, Honorable Speaker, was 4.8. And in 2023, Honorable Speaker, which is this year, the year that the President made his presidential address, the GDP was 5.5%, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when I hear people say, as a member say, Honorable Speaker, that there has been no progress made so far, I wonder if I'm the only person who sees these things, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, with my lack of lived experience, Honorable Speaker, I ably compensate it with reading, listening, and asking, Honorable Speaker. In the statistics of this country, Honorable Speaker, show that we are doing better than we were doing in 2022, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when some Kenyans went to the streets early this year, Honorable Speaker, they went to the streets with sufurias, Honorable Speaker, meaning that the complaint that most of them had was about the price and the cost of food. Honorable Speaker, when the President made his address, Honorable Speaker, he spoke about the cost of food, and I can confirm, Honorable Speaker, in my village where I come from, Honorable Speaker, Kapserton village in Mosop constituency, Honorable Speaker, we are asking farmers who harvested serious amounts of maize to stop selling their maize at 2,500 shillings a bag, Honorable Speaker. We are asking them to actually sell it to the government where it is offering a better price of 4,000 a bag. Honorable Speaker, that tells you the problem of the cost of living, the cost of unga, that some Kenyans took the street with the sufurias, Honorable Speaker, has been sorted ably by the President, who made deliberate decisions, Honorable Speaker, to lower the cost of production of this particular maize, Honorable Speaker. And to say that there's been no change, Honorable Speaker, is not honest, Honorable Speaker. We have had change. We are not yet where we are going, but we still have 4 years, Honorable Speaker, to get there. Honorable Speaker, to speak to the second issue, you know, Honorable Speaker, naturally, human beings see the negative things, they don't see the positive things. When we sit here, Honorable Speaker, and say that we have not seen anything, I pride myself in this President, Honorable Speaker, considering that it is this House that has passed the bills that are going to enable UHC, Honorable Speaker, that every Kenyan will have access to medical care, every Kenyan will not have the burden of selling their land, selling their property for them to be able to afford medical care, Honorable Speaker. It is this government, Honorable Speaker, since I came to life in terms of understanding what happens, that I have had anyone and someone saying that they are going to pay for the Eurobond debt, Honorable Speaker. It is the first time that I'm hearing it, Honorable Speaker. It is this same government, Honorable Speaker, according to the President's speech, that has hired a whooping 56,750 teachers, Honorable Speaker. Every member of this House who represents a constituency, who represents the special interest, who represents a county, Honorable Speaker, can speak and be able to be a witness to that, Honorable Speaker. This same House, Honorable Speaker, has live experiences of, Honorable Speaker. I cannot speak to the examples that the President gave, but I can speak for myself, Honorable Speaker. I started borrowing Hustler Fund when it was 500 shillings. Honorable Speaker, it's not like I needed it, but I wanted to see if it is actually working. I borrowed and repaid. I borrowed a second time and repaid. And the third time, Honorable Speaker, I have a maximum of 6,000, Honorable Speaker. So it is progressive and it is working. The President is a capable President, and he has demonstrated that, Honorable Speaker, and I think it's about time that we stop asking what this country can do for us as members and ask what value, what can we do for this country, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Sotik, Honorable Francis Sigay.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to also address the issues raised by the President when he addressed this House the other week. Madam Speaker, I think, first of all, I would like ourselves to be thoroughly honest. Thoroughly honest, because the President here was very honest. He told us that things are not good, that the economy is difficult. And we are talking here as if the President said everything is okay. Madam Speaker, the President's speech was very comprehensive, very bold, and he addressed the issues without hiding anything. So I think, Madam Speaker, I want to address the issue which affect my constituency, Sotik. Madam Speaker, I want to say in the history of this country, the government was able to roll out the giving out of fertilizers very well. And each and every household in my constituency got the fertilizer. And Madam Speaker, the farmers in my constituency were able to produce maize. And now, we are now asking the government to look at the issue of price. Madam Speaker, the price is coming down, and we would like the government to address this. That means the President addressed the issue of the cost of living. In my place, what we call korogoro, the small container, has come down from 250 to 80 shillings. Madam Speaker, to me, that's a very big achievement. Madam Speaker, we should laud the President for this. Madam Speaker, I also want to say that I was very happy myself to hear the President addressing and supporting NCGCDF. He told us here that as the President of this country, he was supporting NGCDF. And Madam Speaker, everybody should laud this move. Madam Speaker, one of the areas which I also was very impressed is about the digital transformation. Madam Speaker, in Sotik now, in the center there in the market, the women are using Wi-Fi. I mean, what else can you tell our people there? Our people are very happy with the president. There are issues. We cannot say that everything is okay. But the president has addressed issues which matter. Madam Speaker, this president has also addressed the issue of politics being personalized. And the president has given us freedom in this country to do what we want. Another milestone, Madam Speaker, is the whole issue of Tibet, the education system. Madam Speaker, if we must allow the president, it is this area. That in our areas now where we have Tibet, our children, our young people are now enrolling in these institutions. And we are very happy, Madam Speaker, that we are soon going to have skilled labor in this country, and then we'll get unemployment reduced in this country. Madam Speaker, I also want to laud the president, particularly for when he came to power, and he addressed this issue. He employed the charges, the 6 charges. And Madam President, Madam Speaker, this was a milestone. I want to thank the president. I want to ask him to continue being bold, tell the people the truth, be honest, so that we can be able to have a country which can be able to be proud. Madam Speaker, I support this speech.
Thank you. Member for Butula, Honorable Joseph, if not there. Member for Yatta, Honorable Robert Basil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand to contribute on the President's speech. As I said, it was too long and boring. The reason why I say that, many members were struggling to remain awake. The President did not indicate what he wants to do to reduce cost of living. If you look at fuel global prices, fuel has reduced by 5.68%. The President, Madam Speaker, never mentioned about fuel. When he was being elected, he was elected on a premise to lower the cost of living and more so fuel. The President was mute on this, Madam Speaker. Number 2, the President never said anything about how to ensure electricity connectivity in all the villages. Madam Speaker, so many villages are really crying to have connectivity of electricity, considering their taxpayers. The President never said anything on this. Number 3, the President talked about job creation, Madam Speaker. He did not specify on ethnic distribution when it comes to job creation. Recently, we saw recruit in KRA, 57% going to 2 tribes. Madam Speaker, we expect the President to explain to Kenyans on job creation who are the people who benefited ethnically on job creation. Number 4, the President never indicated meaningfully what he wants to do.
Wait, Honorable Member. What is out of order? Honorable Member for Thika.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Is it in order for the member to stand here and say that the jobs goes to 2 tribes? Which jobs goes to 2 tribes? Which 2 tribes?
Allow me to respond to the...
And you give us evidence.
Allow me to respond to Honorable Member for Thika. She doesn't seem to be informed, and I want to inform her today. If she reads dailies, the national newspapers, the new recruits for KRA, it was clear mentioned that 57 of the new recruits went to 2 tribes. I don't want to appear as an ethnic biased person. Therefore, I may not need to specify who are these 2 tribes, but it was public domain. So I refer the honorable member to read and appraise herself.
Honorable Kawanjiko, what is out of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And as we appreciate whatever MP Foyata is trying to say, we also need to make it clear that this is a house of record, Madam Speaker. And the moment that you say that the job opportunities went to 2 tribes, the member Foyata should be able to substantiate and say that this and this tribe, depending on whichever records that he has, that the possession went to the only 2 tribes. So it's not in order for him to make lies in front of this house, Madam Speaker.
Order, Honorable Kawanjiko.
You know, they're intercepting my speech.
Order, Honorable Basil. Order. Honorable members, and this just for the guidance of every member, including you, Honorable Member Foyata, responsibility of statement of fact, standing order 91, a member shall be responsible for the accuracy of any facts which the member alleges to be true and may be required to substantiate. Kindly let us adhere to our own standing orders. Let also be guided that newspapers are not sources of information which are admissible in this house. So let us be careful as we debate. Honorable Basil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also want to make reference on this house. The issue of job distribution was debated when the CS for Treasury was here, Professor Juguna. He actually did acknowledge about that, and it's only that I did not get the actual record, but it was discussed on this house. The answer is clear and the information can be retrieved. I even have a pending question which is supposed to be brought on the floor on the same
Honorable
issue.
Member, do not refer to pending questions that have not been discussed in this
Yeah,
floor.
but that issue was already discussed here on the floor.
They are not a record yet of the House.
That issue was already discussed. Anyway, let me proceed with my speech. If you intend to get this, we can always share. Now, on my 4th point, the President did not mention on what the government intends to do to revise the balance of trade. Currently, we are importing more than we are.
Your time is up. I will not give you 1 more minute. Honorable Basil, you are notorious also interfering with other members, and I did not add them even on their 5 minutes. Next chance will go to the member for South Imenti, Honorable Shadrack Mwiti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the presidential address on the state of the nation. Madam Speaker, the contribution, the speech of the president was accurate and has a lot of impact on the future of this country. Madam Speaker, I would like to comment on the universal health care. Madam Speaker, health care in this country is very, very critical, and it's the Excellency of the President announced the universal health care just the other day, and Kenyans are convinced that primary health care back in the villages will be of very, very importance. Madam Speaker, the government is focused on service delivery, health financing, and the governance, which are the pillars of health care in this country, to ensure that Kenyan citizens are able to access universal health care. Madam Speaker, Facilities Improvement Act is very, very important, as most of the health facilities will be retaining their funds that are collected in those particular health facilities so that they can be revamped back again to the health facilities to supplement their contribution from the county. Madam Speaker, the Digital Health Care Act to establish comprehensive integrated digital health information system is very important since it will enable the accessibility and the communication of various activities in health institutions. Madam Speaker, Social Health Insurance Fund to replace NHIF is very, very important to introduce emergency attention, chronic and critical illness funds, which will be utilized in health care. Madam Speaker, I would like to also contribute on the issue of agriculture. We know very well, Madam Speaker, Kenya is an agricultural country. Kenya earns its income from the export, and also, it's very important in earning the economy of this country. Madam Speaker, South Imenti, where I come from, relies on agriculture, and the subsidy of fertilizer will enable more production of the crops. The yield will be higher, delivering better resources. And hence, Madam Speaker, the distribution of fertilizers in the national cereal bonds makes the accessibility of the Kenyans to access fertilizer more easily. Madam Speaker, the removal of tax on livestock of fins gives the farmers reduced expenses, and also, Madam Speaker, domestic farmers are more competitive in the market. Madam Speaker, this will increase the profits since more farmers will manage to do the farming. Madam Speaker, with the water for all, various irrigation and water plants will make the arid areas to be more productive. So, Madam Speaker, I hereby support the President's agenda to make this.
Your time is up. Honorable David Gekaria, member for Nakuru Town East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute. It's unfortunate the Member of Parliament for Yatta is not around. Honorable Speaker, when he started speaking, he said that the President's speech was long and boring, and some of the members were sleeping. And I think from his contribution, I think he's one of those members who are sleeping and did not listen to the speech when it was done. Honorable Speaker, it was alluded to the fact that the President never spoke about the cost of living. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the speech of the President, and he has said this for those who care to listen, and he made this in his speech when he was here last week on Thursday, is that the cost of living, it is something that has to come down gradually through a process of some intervention. And one of those interventions, Honorable Speaker, is about the fertilizer insurance that has successfully been done in this country, and the success of the harvest, the double or triple harvest that has been witnessed in this year. And at the same time, Honorable Speaker, and he also mentioned that out of that harvest, bumper harvest, the cost of maize flour in some shops has dropped significantly to up to 150 Kenya shillings, Honorable Speaker. So it is important as we look at the speech of the President objectively, Honorable Speaker, regarding the creation of jobs. Honorable Speaker, the more than 50,000 housing units which have already been constructed and occupied, Honorable Speaker, a record of over 100,000 Kenya the youths of different expertise, be it plumbers, be it masons, painters, and the like, have been able to be engaged in this very important sector of affordable housing. Over and above that, Honorable Speaker, a commitment that the President has said that ownership of a shelter, as indicated in our Constitution, is something that he has to address. Honorable Speaker, the President also did allude to the fact about corruption, wastages, inefficiencies, and negligence. Honorable Speaker, it cannot go without saying, and he has come out with an elaborate program, like just without anticipating debate. Honorable Speaker, tomorrow we'll be discussing the supplementary budget, which has reduced wastages and inefficiencies in respective ministries significantly by almost 200 billion Kenya shillings, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my committee is responsible on the matters to do with climate change. And Honorable Speaker, Kenya had an advantage of being the host of the first African Climate Change Conference. Honorable, it brought about over 40,000 delegates from different countries to talk about the weather changes. Honorable Speaker, the President has said now we will not be complaining, but we need to start as Africa, as Kenya, as a continent. We have to start giving direction on what affects our climate and other climatic issues that we need to address. Honorable Speaker, the President has gone further to, of course, talk about the other conferences which are coming up on matters to do with issue of oriented politics. Honorable Speaker, the President has given it a thought, and he has also allowed the bipartisan dialogue that is going on now to be able to allow Kenyans to speak. Even if we were elected democratically, Honorable Speaker, the President has given a hand for the minority to be able to bring their issues on the table in the national dialogue issue that is going. Of course, Honorable Speaker, among others is the bilateral and multilateral issue. There was an agreement, Minimata.
Your time is up. Member for Narok North, Honorable Agnes Pareyo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the President's speech. From onset, I want to say that the President's speech was good. And why I say so is because he touched on issues that are affecting our people. Number one issue is that he touched on the youth. Because having digital hubs in our constituencies will help the youth to get their jobs and can earn a living from working at the hubs. And then he touched again on the subsidized fertilizers, which will give a long-term solution to hunger in our country. When we have fertilizers, farmers can grow their own food and nobody will be hungry because they will have food to eat. And will also give a solution because it will put food on the table and it will as well put money in their pockets. The President also was able to touch on education. He touched on education by making sure that we hired a good number of teachers in our primary schools because we didn't have teachers, and also he was able to touch on education in general. And these are issues that have been affecting us.
Order members, keep the consultations on a manageable level. You are disrupting the member for Narok North. Continue, Honorable Agnes.
Thank you for protecting me. He was able to talk on education by hiring the teachers and again making sure that our children went to school, universities, and they could get loans so that they could continue with their education. On housing, For those who don't have houses, he has also touched on the housing programs that are going to come up in every constituencies that will give our people dignity so that they can be living in good houses. And when, in terms of health, he also touched on health because he was able to talk about NHIF, where our people will be assured of having insurances so that they can also be attending to their medication. And for that reason, I support the speech, and I want to say that it was good. Thank you.
Thank you. Member for Webuye, Honorable Daniel Wanyama. Maybe that will break the Kamukunji there, led by Honorable Kalasinga.
Honorable Speaker, thank you. Let me contribute to the presidential speech, and on the onset, give an indication that the trajectory that that speech took is going to bring Kenya back to the right footing in terms of economy recovery. The two issues that he touched on that touched my heart is one, food security, and two, the universal health. The moment any country, any nation fixes those two issues, the citizens of that country have very good life, and therefore that addresses the issue of the cost of living. So in his speech, and what we have seen is that other than putting subsidy on the consumables, it is better to put that subsidy on the production, because already from where I come, we have had very good yields in terms of the fertilizer that was reduced, and many farmers have had very good harvests this year going forward. So that has addressed the issue of hunger as we progress with this country. But most importantly, Honorable Speaker, because I come from the sugar belt, this government of Kenya Kwanza has done what other governments have not done. The write-off debt for the sugar factories, and Zoya in particular, where I come from, is going to relieve the sugarcane farmers from the bondage of debts that they have been being owned by those factories, and most of them are going to be paid their monies that the factories own them. And you find that when the previous governments actually offloaded the debts of coffee, the trajectory of the coffee sector has now started picking, and I'm sure the sugar factories are going to take it up, and we'll move forward, and that will increase the economy and change the situation of the farmers in the sugar belt to earn a better living going forward, because they will be able to even pay the fees for their children. And on the side of universal health, what the president has put across, and given the plan that we have, I think once that is addressed, I'm sure this country, the people of Kenya are going to have it easy, that the lack of drugs in the referral hospitals will be a thing of the past. As I conclude, a member for Honorable Tim indicated that the president did not have a speech. But given that I come from the same region with the team, I want to inform him that technology has come, because I think the Honorable expected to see a file of papers with the president, but we have gone digital, so the speech was being read, and I'll try to give some tuition to the Honorable member to understand that you don't have to carry files to read the speech. Finally, Honorable Speaker, the cost of living is coming down. And this has been shown by the prices of unga going down. And unless we just want to do politics, Because just last year, the 2 kg was at 250 plus. But to date, as we speak, and when the president was giving his speech, it has gone below 175. So that is the right way to go, and we just want to support this government and the president to make sure that the economy of this country comes back on this footing. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Kipipiri, Honorable Anji Kumuhia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. On the onset, I supported this speech. And as a member who comes from Nyandarua County, first appreciate the issue of fertilizer, because Nyandarua County is one of the feeding baskets of food here in our country. Honorable Speaker, many members have spoken of different issues, and I want to say that it is not right to say that the Kenya Kwanza government has not done anything. Of course, times are hard, we agree, not only in Kenya but worldwide, but there are tangible things that has happened. For instance, construction of 400 markets, where Kipipiri is one of the beneficiaries of Geta Market and Wajoi Market. This is a big deal, because women and even those who are in market can do their business even when the weather is harsh, with the hotspot, and in an environment that has never been experienced there before. Honorable Speaker, on matters of education, when I first got elected, I did an educational audit in Kipipiri because I was worried why my constituency was performing so pathetically. Students were scoring E's, and the rate at which we were getting the performance going down was amazing. Honorable Speaker, I found we had a shortage of more than 200 teachers, by employment of more than 56,000 teachers by Kenya Kwanza government. Kipipiri and many other constituencies have already closed that gap, and I can confirm that personally we have sealed the gap with over 50%. This is also a big deal, because when you trickle down, a student who could have gotten very bad marks and probably her life doesn't match the expectation, the student is already rescued. Honorable Speaker, as I sit as a chair of regional integration on matters of international obligation, Kenya continues to pride itself on the international arena, and I can confirm even at East African region, where we do remittance every year, Kenya is counted as always #1 in upholding its obligation. Honorable Speaker, I will not want to say much, but in terms of deaths that are in this country, which we all know where they originated from, I think it is time now the East African community sit seriously with the serious time frame, and though they have already given time frame of 2030, maybe consider to bring forward the time frame, and we start thinking of our own East African shilling. This will be a big deal again, because we shall get debts, if any, with our own shilling. Otherwise, the debt that has continued to escalate, and those who are opposers of goodwill sometimes have tried to show like the government has continued to take more loans, and it is simply because the dollar has been rising. So could we have our own shilling? Then we take loans or debts with our own shilling, we will be very, very much safe. As I conclude, and as I support this report, this speech, Honorable Speaker, I cannot fail to tell my president and the Kenya Kwanza government that this speech misses a very crucial item. It misses inclusion of persons with disability. Honorable Speaker, this speech is an indication of what happened for the last 1 year in matters of education. Thousands of teachers were employed. On matters of health, universal health care was covered, and so on and so on. So, as we discuss this speech, what has happened to the persons with disability community? I think it is time this country become very intentional on matters of persons with disability. If it is education, we need an inclusive education system. Because, Honorable Speaker, mothers and even guardians of children with disability and relatives are suffering. Even employment, it is not there. And even when the employment is there, the caregivers choose between the job and between the giving care of their own persons. So in future, believing that every minister do give their performance, I urge the minister in charge of persons with disability to also give what is expected, what has happened. We need devices for these people. We need system of education to be looked upon and many other avenues. Honorable Speaker, with that,
The next chance to the member of for Kituto Rural, Honorable David Mboni.
Madam, is Kitui Rural, not Kituto. Madam Speaker, let me also say a few things about this speech. I will not say that it was a very bad speech, but mostly is a proposal going forward. Madam Speaker, what I will say is that what I want to comment is the cost of food. With the fertilizer program, we have seen fertilizer going down from 6,500 to 2,500. And these ones has actually made production of food and the prices of food going down. And that's a very commendable thing. But don't forget that the cost of living has gone up. Last month, the rate of inflation was 6.8%, which is very high to the Kenyans. And this is contributed by the fuel prices, which is still very high in this country. But we start asking ourselves, if oil, petroleum prices are going down in Uganda, in Tanzania, where are we buying our fuel? Are we not buying from the same market? And what happened to the G2G agreement, which we expected the prices of fuel in the country to go down, and also reduce pressure on Kenya on dollar, because our Kenya shillings has been depreciating over time. Madam Speaker, I think apart from giving the fertilizer to the maize growing areas, currently in Eastern Province where I come from, we are having a lot of rains. So this speech, I expected them to the president also to address distribution of fertilizer also to Kitui region, so that we can also grow maize and be self-sufficient in food. And also expected to hear more irrigation schemes being done in Eastern Province, so that we can be able to grow food. Madam Speaker, I was listening to the housing scheme, but I was asking myself, what about the cost of cement? What about the cost of steel? The prices of these things have been going up. I'll tell you, in March, the cost of one bag of cement was 680. Now it's going to, in Nairobi, it's going for 750. Up there is going for 800. So what happened? These are the things which we need to address so that we can make some of these things a bit cheaper. Madam Speaker, I listened about the public debt, and it's very good that we are addressing the issue of repaying payback of Eurobond. Madam Speaker, 2 weeks ago, the CS Treasury admitted that we are in debt and distress or financial crisis. The idea of borrowing is not a bad idea. Everybody borrows. And I think even if these members of parliament, everybody has a loan. But what about us with the money is what you do with that money. What do you do with the loan? What is the impact of the loan? And I will tell you, US, their debt to GDP is 133%. Japan is 250. Sudan here is 186. Kenya is 67. And we are crying. We are in a debt stress. So what happened? These are the issues which we need to address. And one of the issues which we need to address is the corruption and the wastage in government. If we address wastage and corruption in the government, and strictly implement fiscal consolidation, reduce unnecessary trips. I think we are going to end up somewhere. I was reading somewhere, I don't know how true it is, that Kibaki, in the 10 years, he made only that 3 trips. Our current president has made 40 trips in a year. So I was wondering, in 5 years, and one trip, I'll tell you, costs around 300 million. In 5 years, how much are we going to spend in terms of trips and other trips which are made by government officers? In terms of savings, I think we have the lowest savings rate in the country, globally.
The next chance to member for Githunguri, Honorable Gathonu wa Mushomba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to give my contribution on the current debate as we analyze the presidential speech on the state of the nation. I particularly was following the speech because I was keen to understand the extent as to which we have made progressive steps and have achieved milestones towards economic development in the aim of improving the livelihoods of our people. Madam Speaker, I was quite impressed when the President spoke about the many avenues he has sought to bring cost of living down, mentioning his efforts in the agriculture sector, and more particularly his effort to bring fertilizers to our farmers. As a member of parliament representing a constituency that is greatly involved in agriculture, I was keen to get to know to what extent will be the subsidized fertilizer reach our people. Where I come from, Madam Speaker, fertilizer is a very important input for our coffee, tea, and subsistence farmers. However, I was very happy when he said that he acknowledges that the subsidized fertilizer does not get to all farmers that require it because of the factor of distance. And he committed as a president that he's going to work very closely with county governments so that subsidized fertilizers can get to the nearest points of collection for our farmers. I was very impressed, Madam Speaker, because in Githunguri, farmers have had to travel over 75 kilometers to go and access subsidized fertilizer in Thika. And that has been very, very unfair to our farmers. How I hope that the president's handlers and the ministers that serve under him are going to take what he promised to this House and put it to reality so that we don't come back here complaining that that was not a promise kept. However, Madam Speaker, I was very, very interested. Please protect me from the consultation near me, Madam Speaker. They are very loud. Thank you.
Honorable Kawanjiko. Take your seat.
Madam Speaker, I was very, very keen to note that the President did not mention and commit himself on issues of cost of fuel. Obviously, because I know it has been a very, very thorny issue. The cost of living has gone very high, and basing the baseline on the cost of fuel in this country, it is something that I thought he would actually commit that in the next coming 1 year, he will have made effort to bring the cost of living down by reducing the cost of fuel in this country. That notwithstanding, Madam Speaker, as a farmer and as a representative of the farmers in Githunguri, I was very keen to hear, I wanted to hear the President commit himself on his effort on matters milk. He has spoken about maize, he has spoken about coffee, but he did not mention anything to do with milk. Noting and considering that he has been visiting our areas of representation, and more particularly in Githunguri, where he has promised not once, not twice, that he's going to make effort to provide coolers for our farmers. He has promised those coolers not once, not twice, but those coolers have not been presented. He did not commit himself when those coolers are going to be delivered, yet he has committed many times and promised many times. How I hope that his handlers and the people who are working with the President, we will make him honorable by making sure that whatever he promises is delivered in our backyard. As I sit down, Madam Speaker, I am keen to note that the President's speech did not talk about
or mention anything to do with the elderly persons of this country. The elderly persons of this country have somehow been forgotten. We have assumed them for long. We have bundled their money in waiting for over 9 months, and sometimes even the way we distribute their monies, the social protection Inua Jamii Transfer Fund, is so inhuman, and we need to dignify the elderly persons of Kenya. I am hoping that in the next presidential update, we are going to hear more of the inclusion and consideration of the elderly persons of this country, and also to make sure we commit not to delay their monies, the monthly monies that we delayed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
What is out of order, Honorable Alice? What is it, point of information or point of order?
Information.
Sorry.
Let me just say something. Just
the member for Githunguri has already taken her seat.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Just to let the member for Githunguri to know that we have streamlined the Inua Jamii program, and the elderlies are getting their money the beginning of every month and with no delays. And also, even the one we registered just the other day, they will start receiving their money from January. That one I can confirm.
Honorable
as
Alice,
the chair.
Order.
As the chair.
Order, Honorable Alice. I've indulged you because you're the chair of the committee, but information had to be accepted by Honorable Member for Githunguri. But I would ask that when you're doing your contribution, you actually streamline some of those issues. So I will not give you back, Honorable Amushomba. We'll continue. But we will interrupt the debate, as had been alluded by the speaker earlier, to go back to order number 5 and order number 6 by the Budget and Appropriation Committee Chair. Okay. Oh, not yet. You're not ready. Okay. Then we'll go back when that is ready. The next chance will go to the member for Roysambu, Honorable Augustine Mwafrika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this glorious opportunity also to discuss the speech of the President. Madam Speaker, allow me to thank His Excellency the President for the honor and respect he accorded to this House at the outset of his first statement. The President referred this House as a distinguished assembly of democratically elected representative of the people of Kenya. I thank His Excellency for that reference of this House and respect. Madam Speaker, the President did talk about transforming this country for the present and the future generations, despite the 3 primary challenges which he outlined, one as external shocks, fiscal distress, and the external imbalances. Madam Speaker, the President did emphasize his commitment to improve the economy of this country. He also did express his commitment to stop and reverse the negative trends of unemployment, and this has been demonstrated by the rolling out of the housing project across the whole country. Mr. Speaker, the President did also talk about tackling the poverty in this country, which is denying Kenyans their dignity. Madam Speaker, the President did assure Kenyans of his commitment to bring the national values and the principles of governance to his leadership. This, Madam Speaker, is expected to improve the well-being of Kenyans, and also is expected to promote unity, security, and also, Madam Speaker, to bring development across the whole country. Madam Speaker, the President also did recognize readers who have undertaken the process of the bipartisan dialogue, national dialogue, and he did say that these readers are expected to come up with a common ground which is expected to deepen our democracy and also to enhance our unity in our country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the President did also talk about the fertilizer, subsidized fertilizer, which the price was reduced from 7,200 to 2,500. Mr. Speaker, we thank God because of the rain, and we expect that to have a bumper harvest at the end of this season. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we know that there are those people who had made the wrong use of the cooking sufuria, misusing it as their headscarf. I believe going forward, Mr. Speaker, with the supply of subsidized fertilizer, we expect to have bumper harvest across the whole country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the speech of the President.
The Honorable Owen Bayer. Owen Bayer. You already spoke. Why is your name still there? Anyway, the Honorable Abraham Kirwa.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this motion on the issue of the President's speech. I stand here to support the speech by the President of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. I was very, very keen to follow exactly his speech, and one of the areas I was keen is the issue of agriculture and how it was going to affect the people of Mosop. I was very pleased to know that the subsidy that the President just introduced of this, reducing the fertilizer from 7,000 to 2,500 really made a big difference in so many parts of this country, especially in my constituency where we do grow tea, we do grow maize, sugarcane, and many other crops. So farmers were very, very pleased, and it made a big difference. I want to also thank the President because on his speech, he was able to touch issues of corruption. President was very categorical that he was committed to make sure that the issues of corruption will be dealt with. His government and his administration is very serious on actually making sure that the issues of corruption is brought to an end. The other part of his speech that also he touched was the issue of healthcare. The President also was able to mention about 100,000 community health workers who had been dispersed to different parts of this country to make sure that they visit homes. As of last month, the President mentioned that they had visited 1.2 million households, and they had managed to meet several people. And out of this number of people who had gone to visit, they always go with electronic gadgets to be able to measure things like blood pressure and the basic necessities of healthcare and also medicines. So I thought really the President, looking back in the last 1 year, as he mentioned in his speech, we as a country, we've made a huge stride. Looking at where we were when he took office and where we are, he said it was time for us as Kenyans to live within our means. He said for a very long time we were living above our means, but it was time for us to just accept the pill, it's as bitter as it is, and just live within our means. One of the things that is very careful, and he was very careful on his speech, is about the issue of the Eurobond, that many of us were worried that maybe by this time next year we will be in a bad situation. But the President assured us that by this December, we are going to make $300 million payment towards the, to bring down the $2 billion dollars of the Eurobond that we owe, so that by the time we get to June of next year, we will have paid up. And as a country, we will not be able to be put in a situation where we have to compromise on many things. One of the things also the president mentioned is about the cooperations that he has had with several banks, with several institutions, IMF, World Bank, that we've worked very closely together because of the measures that we have put as a country financially to make sure that this country is on the right trajectory so that we don't get into a situation where we declare bankrupt. So looking at the speech of the president, I was very pleased that as much as we are really going through tough time as a nation, the cost of living is still a little bit high, but the systems and the things that the president has put in place and his administration is going to make sure that this country is stable and we will be healing and our economy will continue to grow. So I support this speech by the president that we are on the right speed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable John McCarthy is in the House, followed by the Honorable Beatrice Elachi.
House, give me the mic. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute on the President's speech on the state of the nation. At the outset, Honorable Speaker, I must say, this speech was given pursuant to the provisions of Article 132 of our Constitution that requires the President to give an account of implementation of the national values set out in Article 10. Article 10 sets out the rule of law as one of the critical concepts, a national value, which each and every state person has to comply with. So at the first stage, we appreciate the President for complying with the rule of law, constitutionalism, because he's obliged by law to give that speech. Looking at the President's speech, there are a few issues that stand out. One, the implementation of the universal health care. That one should be a plus for the President. The reforms that have been made in the education sector in terms of employing teachers is a plus to the President and the government. The debt servicing is a plus. But there are several other issues which need to be taken into account as we look at the President's speech. One, in regard to the education sector, we realize that much as we have employed teachers, we still have very big issues with infrastructure in our schools. We still have very, very big issues with remission of capitation that is supposed to support our schools. As a representative of farmers, specifically in Nzoia Sugar, I was very pleased with the President in indicating in his speech that we are going to carry out sugar industry policy reforms to ensure that all the people who have been eating the sweat of farmers are removed. But Honorable Speaker, we need to be very, very cautious in carrying out the reforms in the sugar sector so that we really do not allow sugar barons and cartels that have controlled the sugar sector for all this particular time to come back and again run the sugar sector. I congratulate the President for waiving all the debts, but I urge for the poor farmers of Nzoia that the President puts in place and this House in the supplementary budget considers paying all the farmers, all the suppliers, and all the employees so that they can have a Christmas gift before the end of this year. In terms of debt servicing, we realize we are getting out of debt, but we are paying these debts at the heavy costs. Kenyans are being taxed very heavily. We are making savings. But, Mr. Speaker, we need to put in place measures to ensure that the savings of Kenyan people through NSSF are safeguarded. Because in the past, we have had the sums of money that are remitted to NSSF siphoned. And this is not a very good thing for us as we move on in terms of implementing the bottom-up economic agenda. Equally, what I found missing from the President's speech, Honorable Speaker, is how are we going to ensure that each and every part of this particular country is covered by electricity. I know there was a rural electrification program that was being carried out, but Honorable Speaker, as I look at my own constituency, we are yet to cover 90% of the country in terms of rural electrification. We think that moving forward, we are going to put in determinate steps to ensure that rural electrification is done in all parts of the constituency, especially my own constituency. But the elephant in the room, Honorable Speaker, still remains the high cost of living. either side of this particular house acknowledges that Kenyans are really suffering out of the high cost of living. The president equally acknowledges this much in his speech, and he says we need to take determinate and affirmative steps to bring down the cost of living. I know we have had reduction in the prices of fertilizer, but we need, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that the fuel prices go down. If we do not bring down the fuel prices in this particular country, we will still be singing the song of reducing the high cost of living to no avail. So we should be able to take determinate steps to ensure that we bring down the cost of living, because Kenyans are hurting. And as a government which survives for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we must ensure we listen to our people and bring down the high cost of living. Honorable Speaker, I submit. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Elachi Beatrice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to give my gratitude to the President's speech, to say as a country that sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you need to be all as a team, to be all as one, as a country. I know when we are hurting, when every Kenyan is crying of the high cost of living. But one thing I want to appreciate about the speech was when the President appreciated, and Mr. Speaker, when I was a senator, I did a motion on NYS. That motion is what evolved NYS. And one of the fourth pillars was that any young person who goes through NYS must thereafter join either any of the disciplinary forces, because this is a young man who has come out without looking at salary, without looking that he or she will get something, but is ready to be patriotic to the country and to work for the country. So I just want to salute that and say at least after 10 years, we are able now to see the fruits of this motion. Mr. Speaker, the other thing is to appreciate that if indeed we are going to start paying our debts, then we start singing a song of what we want to see in this country, that we must, yes, receive money, but use the money accountably, transparently, let people see that transformation, but in the end, we must pay our debts. And so I want to thank him for that. Mr. Speaker, what is very worrying now is that when I look at what we are doing within the country, and especially the team that is working with the president, that indeed if you want to transform this country, then you must indeed bring us solutions, give the president solutions. It is the technocrats who must tell us, now that we are hurting, what is this that is best? And therefore, when you are advising the president, it has to be an advice that will bring solutions to a country, not an advice that will end up now bringing again another question. Is it the president who has to work alone for Kenya to move? I doubt. And therefore, for me, I still question the team that is advising the president. And I am like, this team must remember, we came from COVID. It was a post-COVID. There is inflation. You must have solutions on how we start ensuring that cost of living should come down. Yes, we will say we have huge harvest that is coming. Yes, but the climate is telling us there is huge harvest at one side. At the other side, there is water that is taking all over, and Mandera and the other are now in another world. So what happens in between? We have to rethink, and we have to know in this country, when one side has abundance of harvest, the other side might be in drought. How do we harness all this to make sure when this side has no food, we are able to see food on that side? The same. If we are saying we are moving on well, then we must see the cows of Kajiado staying at home and be able to find themselves feeding within Kajiado. But if we find them now looking for grazing now, it means there's still a challenge. And so we have to stand, all of us, on this economic pillar and agree. And I want to salute our chair of budget, but to also request him, Chair, there is need to put in the budget how we are going to rebrand our airport, how we are going to ensure the door, the hub of Kenya, that airport becomes an airport when everyone enters can respect Kenya, can believe in Kenya and can know this is a country where people have democracy, but also are able to do a good thing that will sustain generations to come. So for us to see what is happening with the Kare people and we are looking for resources, it is wrong. So, Mr. Speaker, even as we look at the speech of the president, we are saying we want to support, yes, but with solutions, and very soon, and hopefully very soon, the president will be able to change his economic advisors. We must see good ones and new ones. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Ibrahim Sane, followed by the Honorable Paul Biago of Chesumei and Alice Nganga of Thika.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you look at the language and the tone of the presidential address, you realize that it paints a government that is painstakingly poor economic management to one that may offer respite to that poor economy so that it can fulfill its promises, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am keenly attached to the President's address on corruption. If we deal with corruption and slay that devil, all other things will fall into place. What I expect to see from the Kenya Kwanza government is a firm decision, action on dealing with corruption decisively, Mr. Speaker. If I may cherry pick some few things on the address. Mr. Speaker, food security and by extension, the cost of living has been a concern to Kenyans. We know the past bad economy, the post-COVID impact, and the drought that has lasted for over 4 years, or nearly 4 years, have entirely impacted on the economic status and thereby affecting our food security. However, the government had taken bold initiatives by providing subsidies on fertilizer, and at least making sure that some of the machines required, tractors, are zero-rated in terms of tax. But we need to move further. We know that planting seeds are very expensive in this country, Mr. Speaker. Tractor doesn't do anything by itself. It requires farm implements. Planters, harrows, and plows are all vertable, Mr. Speaker, as we speak. Kenya can only be food secure if we highly subsidize the food sector, the agricultural sector, Mr. Speaker. So we need to do much more, in as much as I appreciate the Kenya Kwanza's initiative towards attaining food security. More needs to be done in the same sector, Mr. Speaker. On CBC, well, this is an issue that was inherited from the past regime. We know it is expensive. It would have been implemented in piecemeal and in a phased way. However, the objective of CBC is welcome for this nation. But one thing, Mr. Speaker, in as much as we equally appreciate the number of teachers, over 50,000 teachers were recruited by TSC. I know there has been some arguments about the status of recruitment or employment, some saying it is by contract, others saying that few are on permanent and pensionable basis. That is not here, neither there, Mr. Speaker. Unemployment, by whichever means, is unemployment, and I do congratulate the government for employing over 50,000 teachers. After all we needed is employment and teachers for our students in every part of the country. Mr. Speaker, one thing I though disagree is the capitation for every student in this part, in the country. Wajir North and Dadaab doesn't have the same environment for every student, for every learner like in Nairobi. I can't understand why capitalization has been equalized when really we are unequal in all aspects of life. Mr. Speaker, on universal health care, it is a move in the right direction. Inclusion. Until the Ajuran tribe, the Ajuran community are included in the government, I believe a commendable job done by this government is not fully implemented. I, from Wajir North, is not part of this government. We need to be at least accommodated in the Kenya Kwanza government, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, insofar as the value of inclusion is concerned,
the Honorable, who is on a point of order? What's your point of order, Honorable?
Honorable Speaker, I am just concerned that you're giving too many opportunities.
Order. The first basic rule you learn in Parliament is you do not cast aspersions on the Speaker. Proceed. The Honorable, who was number 2? Chesumei, followed by Alice Nganga. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for protecting the House. I stand to support or to give my voice on the presidential speech. And from where I sit, I think the President did a very good job. The speech was okay.
Honorable Chesumei, I will interrupt you. You will have your minutes, but can you take your seat? Honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence of members of Parliament from the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and the staff from their parliaments. The delegation of members of Parliament from various Commonwealth countries, including Africa, the Americas, the Caribbean and Europe, UK, overseas territories, Asia Pacific, are seated. Members of Parliament are seated in the Speaker's row, and members of staff also and other parliamentarians are seated at the back. The parliaments represented comprise, ordinarily in the olden days when a speaker is making these communications, he used to sit, but because the members of Parliament will be required from that area to stand up to be recognized, and when when the speaker is on his feet, everybody should freeze, so you will not have an opportunity to rise to be recognized. So I'm going to do this when I'm sitting. The honorable members, the parliaments represented comprise the National Assembly of the Gambia. Could the honorable members from the Gambia stand, and the staff? The Parliament of Jamaica in the West Indies. Thank you very much. The National Assembly of the Kingdom of Lesotho. Thank you very much. National Assembly of the the States of Jersey Assembly. Order, honorable members. Order, Kibrek. Order. Parliament of the New South Wales in Australia. Thank you very much. Welcome. Nova Scotia House of Assembly. That must be somewhere in Canada. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Parliament of Sierra Leone. Welcome. The Parliament of Uganda, our neighbors. You're welcome. United Kingdom Parliament, the mother of parliaments. You're welcome. The National Assembly of Zambia. You're welcome. And the Parliament of Kenya, I'm sure the Honorable Kali David is here, but let me finish my communication first. A special mention to the chairperson of the CPA UK, the Right Honorable Dame Maria Miller. I hope I pronounce your name well. Welcome, Madam Maria Miller. Honorable members, the delegation is attending a workshop on strengthening parliamentary action to address gender-based violence and modern slavery in supply chains, organized by the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association UK in partnership with the National Assembly of Kenya. Honorable members, The main objective of the workshop is to provide for parliamentarians and relevant stakeholders to consider and discuss from multiple perspectives, including legislatively, culturally, socially, and legally, on how to collaborate better within their countries with a view to ensuring an impactful process in ending modern slavery and gender-based violence in every nation in the Commonwealth. Honorable members, on my behalf, representing the Speaker of the National Assembly, and on that of the National Assembly and CPA Kenya as a whole, I thank them for participating in the workshop and welcome them to Parliament and wish them fruitful engagements during the workshop. Honorable members, may I also take this opportunity to thank everyone who took part in ensuring success of this workshop, including the CPA UK, the Parliament of Kenya, various Commonwealth parliamentarians who were engaged, the facilitators, resource persons, and the Secretariat from both the UK and Kenyan parliaments. Your input and commitment has enabled the success of this workshop. Thank you very much. I will give this an opportunity now of exactly 2 minutes to a member of the CPA from the Kenyan National Assembly, the Honorable Dr. Makali.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to join you and my colleagues in welcoming honorable members from different countries who have come for this important workshop. Honorable members, this workshop is focusing on 2 issues. One is parliamentary action or address to gender-based violence, and the second one is modern-day slavery in supply chains. Since yesterday, Honorable Speaker, these delegates have engaged in those 2 topics, and I want to report to this House that we have gone through very fruitful deliberations, and members are coming up with very good proposals on how to address these 2 issues. So once more, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the UK CPA chapter and the Kenyan CPA chapter through our Parliament for organizing and hosting this important workshop. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to say to the delegates, please continue the deliberation